Hey everyone, welcome to Felicity Yarn Studio. If you're new here, my name is Zoe. A big welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I am a fiber artist coming to you from the foothills of North Carolina, and I have some knitting and some crochet projects to catch you up on today. So again, thank you for joining me. I do have two announcements that I want to get out of the way up here at the front. The first being, we have made it to 1,000 subscribers. Yay! Thank you all so much for any kind of support that you show to the channel. It means a lot to me personally, and it also of course helps grow the channel and get this little fiber corner, helps get this little corner of the fiber community out there. So yeah, whether that's subscribing, liking, commenting, again, it really just means a whole lot to me. So as a way to show my gratitude, I'm actually going to give away two packages here because again, I just feel so much gratitude and appreciation for everyone who has supported me along the way. And of course, the first little set here is going to be these two skeins of Lopi yarn that I picked up on my recent travels to Iceland, and this cute little set of stitch markers that seemed to kind of go along with that yarn perfectly. And secondly, I was going through the shop the other day and I have just fallen back in love with the lavender field sock set that I dyed up a few months ago. So I'm going to be giving away one of these as well. So if you want to enter to win either one of those packages, I will leave a prompt later on in the video for how you can enter that. The second thing that I wanted to talk about real quick is advent calendars. I don't have a ton to announce right now, but I wanted to kind of put the word out there. I am in the early planning stages. I have some of the accessories and things like that picked out for the kits. I have a theme in mind. I'm still kind of hammering out the details on how I want to word it and put it out there. So stay tuned here. Follow me on Instagram if you want to keep an eye out for that as well. I will probably put them on sale for early purchases. I generally put them for sale starting in June, so there's about a month and a half before that's going to happen. Again, just kind of keep an ear out if you're interested in purchasing one of those. I'll go ahead and put a little teaser out that the theme that I'm going for this year is going to revolve around historical dress and the absolutely beautiful gowns that ladies wore back in the day. So I love historic costume and the evening gowns of yesteryear. So I haven't really decided like if there's going to be a time span that I focus on, or I'm actually thinking I'm just going to focus more on the color palette because I want this year's set to actually be a fade. So that's where my brain is at for advent calendars. Again, Instagram is probably the best place to keep up with any advent news. I'll try to update here whenever I record and make some posts and whatnot if you're only a YouTuber. So that being said, let's dive into what I am wearing because I feel like whenever I wear a knit, I always forget to talk about that. Today I have on my Laurel jumper that I have made into a short sleeve cropped version. I knit this out of some just plain undyed sock yarn, and the contrast color with the color work is some hand spun yarn that I made almost 2 years ago now. I did it during the first Tour de Fleece that I participated in. So this was fiber from Wound Up Fiber Arts in her Lightning Bug colorway. It's perfect for right now through spring because like the days will get up to about 80 degrees here and then the nights fall into the 40s. So it's kind of nice and warm but not too heavy, especially with the short sleeves. I also kind of did mine at a cropped length, which I'll pop a picture up on because standing up and trying to get it on camera and here's a whole ordeal. But yes, I really love this. If you've watched the podcast in the last year, if you remember my saga with trying to pick out the colors and what like version I wanted to do, I spun 2 different skeins of yarn before I settled on this third one that I had already spun previously. So anyway, yes, I really enjoyed this knit. It is a very nice kind of t-shirt fit if you decide to go short sleeve with it. It is written as a full length jumper. But let's go ahead and move on into finished objects. I do have one whole finished object to share with you guys today, so let me grab that. I was very, very close to finishing these socks the last time that I spoke with you guys. These are a pair of fade socks. I used the, what's it called? The How I Roll pattern by Mara Catherine Briner to get the kind of fade pattern. I used 3 different minis from Artemis Yarns from an advent kit that I got from her like 4 years ago, I believe. These 3 were 3 full leftover minis, plus about half of a mini for the blue color down at the toe. And I used up most of them to get the full pair of socks. And like I said, I used that fade pattern because I feel like it kind of naturally creates a more blended fade, I guess you could say. And this was just a vanilla toe up 2 at a time sock. I do not recommend knitting 2 at a time socks while trying to pull yarn from both ends of the ball when you have 2 colors going on at the same time. So that was 4 strands of yarn. That was not fun or easy to try to keep them from tangling up on each other. So maybe just weigh out your yarn and cut them into separate balls. I think that would have been a whole lot easier. I personally, I cannot do 1 at a time socks anymore. It's a really hard sell for me to finish the second sock. 2 at a time has just spoiled me, and that is literally the only way that I get pairs of socks done now. I think I cast on 68 stitches for these. I've started going down in my stitch count for socks. That way they fit just a little bit snugger. And I did come back and do an afterthought heel. I had contemplated continuing the fade from colors 1 and 2 here into the heel, but in the end I just decided to use that second color for the entire heel, and I think it looks fine. I mean, nobody's going to be looking at the heel of my sock while it's in my shoe, but yeah, I'm really happy with how these turned out. I'm also extra pleased that I finally got this out of my sock yarn bin, because I've been, again, holding on to these minis for like 4 years, knowing that this is what I wanted to make from them, constantly casting on new socks, and just kind of letting these linger and stare at me. So I'm really pleased that this pair has finally come to fruition, and yeah, they will go into my sock bin now. All right, so as I said, that was my only finished object, which is fine. I probably could have finished one of the other things that I'm going to talk about, but I've kind of been on a starting at new things kick here since coming back home. I feel like I always come back home from a trip kind of rejuvenated and ready to jump back in and start all the new things. So one of the things that I started right away was I started a pair of socks with the Retrosaria yarn that I picked up in Iceland. It was calling to me. I really needed to start this pair of socks that I had in the back of my mind. So this is the Mondim yarn, and the colorway is just color 205. It doesn't have a name or anything. I have really been enjoying knitting with this yarn. It is kind of different from the skein that I knit the other pair of socks from Mondim out of. Granted, that yarn was like another like 4 or 5 years old. This one seems to be spun just a little bit thicker. I want to say the last pair I knit on my size 0 needles, and these I am knitting on my size 1s or 2.25 millimeter. Now, I did deviate a little bit here. I decided to do these top down, and I wanted a ribbed cuff all the way down the top of the foot. So that's what I've done here. And this yarn is just so super springy and bouncy. Like, it's got so much stretch and elasticity, and that's it being purely 100% non-superwash wool. There's no nylon in this blend, so I'm really pleased with how this knitted up on the cuff here. And since I really enjoyed the last pair of socks that I made from the Mondim, I always enjoy the fit of a heel flap and gusset. So I've made a lot of afterthought and kind of short row heels lately. I really was itching to do a traditional kind of top. I don't know if they're traditional. I think of them as traditional, the heel flap and gusset type of construction for a sock. So I have done, and I apologize, for some reason I stopped in the middle of a row here. I have done I have partridge heel on this. Now, it is a little bit hard to read visually with the kind of super speckly dye job on the yarn here, but I'm okay with that. I can still kind of tell it's there. And I just kind of improvised. I wasn't really following a pattern. I want to say that I only cast on like 64 stitches for this sock. I don't remember the exact number. I just know that it was, again, less than what I would normally cast on for a sock, which I've historically been a 72 stitch sock knitter. So going all the way down to like 64 stitches is pretty snug for me. But again, that's really what I wanted. I really wanted a nice close fitting woolly sock. I'm thinking these are probably going to be like really good hiking socks or wintertime socks. So I am almost through all of the decreases for the gusset. I don't remember where I'm at. But I'm getting there. I'm pretty close to having all of the decreases done for the gusset. And then, yeah, I'm just doing a plain stockinette foot for these. The only thing that I'll say is if you are doing 2 at a time, top down with the heel flap and gusset, it does get a little weird with magic loop. At some point, you kind of have to have an extra needle to slide some stitches onto to get them arranged properly. I think when you're doing the picking up all around to get those gusset stitches started. So I don't know if there's like an official like correct way of doing that, or if you're just not supposed to do it that way. I just kind of use a spare needle and get them rearranged so that I can continue going round and round and round, because that's the way that I like to knit. And I am an advocate for knitting the way that you want to knit, not the quote-unquote right way. Do what makes you happy, people. So that is the first whip that I kind of cast on and got sucked into upon our return. The second one, I actually technically started right before we left, but I had to do some ripping back in order to get it to behave the way that I wanted it to. So here we are. This is the classic Cozy Raglan by JessieMae Martinson. It is just her basic top-down raglan jumper that I have been talking about making a second one of these for ages and ages in a DK weight yarn. So that is what this is. It is yarn from U2 Yarn in their Mellow DK base. I don't believe that this colorway has a name. It is just a dye lot. It says BA02. It's their 100% superwash merino, 219 yards per 100 grams, hand painted, nature inspired. So I picked this up at SAF last year. That is the Southeastern Animal Fiber Festival in Asheville, or just outside of Asheville in Fletcher, North Carolina, every year. So as I mentioned when I pulled this out, I had done the cuff for the neck here, and I had started the raglan and started doing the short rows, but something wasn't right about my increases here along the raglan. They were looking really funky, so I don't know, I had maybe gotten like an inch or so of it done, and I completely ripped back and started started it over. And so far I have been alternating 2 skeins of yarn here. This is what I have left of the first 2 skeins that I've started. I only have 5 skeins of yarn of this. This was all that they had in this colorway. And again, I think it's kind of one of a kind. So I'm within the yardage range that is recommended for the size that I am making. The size that I am making is, I don't remember exactly what size it is on the pattern, but I know I have a 46-inch bust, and the finished measurement is meant to fit a 46-inch bust. So I think it's gonna be 0 ease, which is fine with me. I find that 100% superwash merino tends to grow a fair amount whenever you block it or wash it. So I'm not necessarily worried about the fit. I am, however, at the stage where I'm ready to separate for the sleeves, and I am going to do that a few rows early. I think it calls for 76 stitches for each sleeve. At that point you separate. I'm doing it when I have 72 stitches, which isn't necessarily a ton, but I don't want anything super gapey on the underarm with this raglan, especially if it's going to be more of a fitted fit. So yeah, like I said, I am at that point. I just need to sit down and actually separate these. I was chatting with my sister Naomi, the yarn curator. She says that when she has separated it early, she'll just cast on a couple extra stitches along the underarm to get those stitch counts correct. So I think that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm not nervous about it, but I'm a little like out of my depths here. I've not really done this separating early. So if you have done this before, please let me know down in the comment box how you kind of navigate separating early. I love a good raglan, but I feel like there's always a lot of underarm gappage happening, and I'd like to try to maybe eliminate some of that on this jumper, because I really foresee this being like one of my everyday wear pieces. I wear the absolute crap out of my other one. It has been worn to do yard work and everything under the sun, so I kind of want this to be my like nicer beater jumper, if that makes sense. And yes, I have been alternating the skeins here using the helical method, where you knit with one yarn, you join a second yarn. This is again going to be another case of me very poorly explaining how something works. So you knit with the first color, and then when you come to the second color, you stop 3 stitches, slip them, and then start working with your second color, and then come back around, stop 3 stitches early, slip, get to the first skein, and you just continue round and round and round that way. There are lots of video tutorials out there. I'll try to leave a link or something to one that much better explains how that works, and you can actually visually see how that works, because I'm a visual learner. That is the only way that things tend to make sense for me. So these are the first 2 skeins. I have 3 left. I'm also considering knitting the sleeves first before I do the body. That way, you know, the body length just is what it is. I'm okay with it not being super long as well. Fingers crossed that I do not lose a giant game of yarn chicken here. All right, let's talk about this one next. So this is the project that I probably could have and should have finished before sitting down to record today. This is my Darjeeling cardigan. Just lost all my yarn. It is a pattern by Knitting for Olive. I don't know the actual designer's name, but I know she goes by Knitting for Olive. And I love this thing. I am 1 sleeve away from finishing this thing, and I know from knitting the first sleeve over here that it really only takes about a day and a half to get through that. So it has been sitting for about a week now. I've even done the hard part and picked up all the stitches around the sleeve here. I've just been super distracted by the next thing that I'm going to show you guys before finishing this. So let's talk about it. This obviously is a very large, oversized cardigan. It is written to hold 3 strands of silk mohair together, and you knit with those at a large gauge. I believe it calls for size 10.5 needles, but I'm using size 11 to get the gauge. I am using 1 strand of mohair silk, 1 strand of Surrey alpaca, and 1 strand of lace weight rambouillet. So let me pull these back up here. So here's the 3 that I am using. This is the mohair silk, this is the Surrey alpaca, and this is the lace weight rambouillet. I dyed up these 2 colors. They're in my colorway Hellebore. This is some yarn that I have had in my stash for a good long while from Brooklyn Tweed, and I believe the colorway is called Arabesque. However, it is a discontinued yarn. They no longer make that. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this has knitted up. Let me try and pull it on real quick here and see if I can show you guys how it's fitting. Now, keep in mind, I have the bottom ribbing still on a stitch holder. That's because these are my last full skeins of yarn left. So I have about half of the length that's recommended for the ribbing, which is like 4 inches. I wanted to go ahead and get both of the sleeves done before deciding on how much ribbing I would do at the bottom, because you're also still supposed to make a belt for this. I'm not sure if you make loops for it though, so like I don't know what the point of the belt would be, but this thing is like wearing a cloud. It is super comfortable. I absolutely love it. This is exactly what I have been wanting for my wardrobe here lately. I want something that I can just throw on first thing in the mornings. We keep our house pretty chilly at night, so first thing in the morning I'm usually pretty cold and throw a sweater on, but I would really like a cardigan just for the ease of getting it on and off, but also this is just so cozy and comfy. Like, I absolutely love it. It does come rather long on my person, which you can't really see here. Maybe I'll try to take a picture after I'm done recording. It falls way past my butt, which is okay with me. I kind of wanted something that was more coat-like than just a cardigan per se. So again, I just need to finish the second sleeve, finish the last like inch or 2 of ribbing down here. I think last time I showed you guys, yeah, there's my stitch marker. I was like halfway through the body length. And if I remember correctly, the body called for like 24 inches. Yes, I think it was 24 inches. I stopped at like 22 inches before I started the ribbing, just because, I mean, it's already very substantial as it is. So I wanted to save a little bit of yarn, and I also just didn't really need something that was like coming down to my knees necessarily. So yeah, right now it is hitting somewhere between my knees and my butt, like mid-thigh back there. So yeah, I am in love with this. I just need to actually finish it. All right, so before I get into the project that has stolen my heart, my mind, my making mojo, let's go ahead and do the giveaway here, or the giveaway prompt. So here they are, the 2 packages or skeins of yarn that I'll be giving away. One winner will get the Lopi, one winner will get the Lavender Field sock set. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Whether you have liked, commented, subscribed, I really appreciate whatever you guys want to do to show support for the channel. I feel like I might have used this prompt in the past, but I'm going to use it again. So in the comment box down below, let me know either what has been your favorite trip or vacation, where have you gone that you would 100% recommend to other people to travel to? Or if money was no object, what would be your dream trip? Where would you go? Naomi and I have a bit of an adventurous spirit. We're always scheming for our next trip and would love any of y'all's recommendations. So yeah, drop that in the comment box down below. I will leave the giveaway open until I do my next video. I'll close it through the comments. So yeah, just drop a comment down below and let me know what your answer is. I will use random number generator draw picker thing to pick 2 winners. It's open up worldwide. So I'm really excited to hear what everyone's response is to that, because I love hearing about travel. I love traveling. Yeah. Last, but certainly not least, because this is where my heart and my soul has been living over the last week or so. I have started yet another granny stripe blanket. So about a week ago, my mom called me up. She had some questions about making a granny stripe blanket and the Battenberg blanket and a couple other patterns. And I recently have been frogging my crocheted northeasterly blanket. It just was making a really wonky kind of curved shape. I think somehow with adding each row, I was somehow adding extra rows or stitches to it. I don't know. Anyway, it was coming out curved and not like a straight rectangular shape. So I knew for a while that I wanted to frog that blanket, which that blanket I'm making at DK weight. So I was holding a lot of fingering weight strands double, but also using some DK weight skeins. I'm not opposed to trying it again in the future. However, a fingering weight granny stripe blanket was really just speaking to me. If I finish this cardigan and then I'll have my raglan sweater and I've got a pair of socks, like that's the extent of my making. I'm usually I have 8 to 10 projects, whips going on at any given moment. So there is a knitted blanket that is kind of lingering in the corner that I need to pull out and work on as well. But this was just what my heart wanted. So I listened to my heart. I started pulling from the yarns that I had set aside for the crocheted northeasterly. And I started frogging some more of those and reclaiming some of that yarn. So in our house, you either go big or go home. So I'm not just making a like lap blanket or a couch size blanket. I've decided to make a king size blanket for our bedroom. So yeah, it's a beast. It is about 140 inches across. Not only is this going to be a great yarn buster, I've just really been wanting to make some kind of bedspread or like quilt cover. It's not really quilt. I wanted a knitted blanket for my bedroom. So here we are. I chained 600 stitches to get this length, and I wasn't really sure how many I was gonna need. I was putting in a stitch marker every 100 stitches, and I measured the chain, and that gave me about like 22 to 24 inch sections. So I'm using a size F hook, 3.5 millimeters. I do know that. I'm pretty sure it's size F. With the fingering weight yarn, and I'm following the Attic 24 granny stripe blanket pattern. That is just always been my go-to. The only thing that I kind of changed up that I'm not really regretting, but it didn't really do what I expected it to do, and that's because I am not a proficient crocheter. Like, this is the extent of my crochet skills. So the very first row that you crochet into the chain is actually this row here for me. Wait, no. let me try to describe what I did here. So the very first row that I crocheted into the chain is this one up here up top. And rather than coming and working along the top here so that like they're all facing the right direction, I flipped it and started crocheting into the chain on the other side, mostly because I was thinking I want this nice, neat edge from this end, not realizing that it was going to do this kind of little bit of weird thing here on this side when all of this is now moving, growing up into the same direction. But honestly, it's fine. I really don't care. This will probably go at the foot of the bed and I will never ever see it. Also potentially going to do a border around the edge. I don't know. We'll see how I feel when I get to that point. But yeah, I'm loving working on this. I know that I probably don't have enough yarn at the rate that I am breezing through it, but that's okay. I am just kind of riding the granny stripe wave mojo for as long as I can right now, or until my arm like protests and I just can't do it anymore. I get some forearm soreness when I tend to go hard on the crochet, but yeah, I'm really loving this. I'm loving how it's working up. I'm being pretty picky about the colors that I include. My only kind of color method here is on the skeins that I have more yarn of. I'm tending to do 2 rows and then 1 row in between them just to kind of break it up. I'm picking out like 3 or 4 colors at a time and just kind of leaving them next to me. When I work through them, I'll kind of pick 2 or 3 more depending on, you know, what I've just done. I'm not being super meticulous about a row ending at any given point. Like it doesn't have to end exactly here. I am using the Russian join method. That is what I've used in the past as well. I personally am not a fan of the magic knot. It's not always been reliable for me, but the Russian join is pretty secure. I've never really had a problem with that. And in the past, I have made magic cakes where you just are continually joining pieces of yarn to make a ball of yarn, so you don't have to sit there and join at the end of each color. You can kind of flow a little better and you're not always stopping to join your yarn. However, given that this is essentially twice the size of the granny stripe blankets that I have made in the past, I really don't mind stopping every row or two to sew in a new piece of yarn. It kind of forces me to slow down and look at what color is coming next. So yeah, obviously I am loving this thing. It is going to be a beast. It is going to be a labor of love, but that's okay. I enjoy really big projects. I enjoy really long, time-consuming projects. At some point, I'm sure it'll go into timeout, but I'm sure at some point it'll come right back out. It's kind of my motivation for getting our bedroom painted. It's one of the last rooms in the house that has not been painted yet. So this summer, I would really like to get that painted and decorated and eventually have a nice pretty blanket to go in there. I did ask Jason, I was like, does it bother you that I am making a very like pastel-y, neon-y blanket for the bedroom that you're gonna be sleeping in as well? And he was like, just do your thing. Get you a man who knows not to argue with you on your color palette choices. Minis from Stash for said blanket that I need to cake up. That's probably my least favorite part of all of this, is caking up a gazillion minis. But anyway, so that is that. Darcy has decided to join me for the sign off here. What was I gonna say? I think I forgot to mention it at the beginning. I am also dyeing up a 12 color mini set of colorways inspired by my trip to Iceland. So those will be hitting the shop probably in about a month or so. Man. And again, advent calendars will be up probably starting in June, so keep an eye out for that. Follow me on Instagram if you want kind of the most up-to-date information. Darcy and I always appreciate you guys. Leave a comment. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. Let me know your favorite adventure or dream adventure. And yeah, I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye. Say bye, Dee.